Well, hi there, food friends. It's Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. I'm Ralph, behind the camera.
And it's Cavalcade of Food. And so we got invited over to some dear friends for dinner tonight. And they, of course, we always say, what can we bring? Besides our charming selves, right, Ralph? And so she said, do you remember this cake you made about 5 years ago for our Kentucky Derby party? Yes, I do. And so it was the Pink Lady chiffon cake. Okay? So that's what we're making.
So that really stuck in their memory, and you remembered it as well.
I do remember it, and I remember this is a cake I've made a few times since then, but it's a chiffon cake, and it's really a cherry chiffon cake, and that's what gives it its pink color, maraschino cherries.
And as it happens, Kevin found My Fair Lady for 50 cents yesterday, and it's a very pink record.
Yes,
so I thought
it is very pink.
That'd be good fun background music.
That's the movie cast. You know, you often hear the Broadway cast version, but okay, so anyways, a chiffon cake.
Back to the task at hand.
Exactly. So this chiffon cake, like all chiffon cakes, uses egg yolks and egg whites. Unlike an angel food that only uses the whites, a chiffon uses both, but you have to separate them. So what we're going to do is I need 8 egg whites and 5 egg yolks.
Wow.
You with me so far?
I am, but that's a lot of eggs.
Well, it is a lot of eggs. So what I'm going to do is, and everyone has a way that they like to separate their eggs. This is how I do it. I do the topsy-turvy. I go from one to the other. So there's my egg white, there's my egg yolk. Okay? Now, one thing you have to kind of be conscious of when you're separating eggs is you don't want to get any yolk into those whites, okay? Otherwise, they will not beat up firm. There's something about the protein in the egg yolk that prevents it. So, if you find that you get egg yolk in your whites, just try to fish it out as best you can, because you really don't want any yolks in there, just whites.
And
so see how I'm doing this, Ralph?
I think that's great. Some of you may have seen that thing that was going around on YouTube where they were showing how to separate eggs
with a water
bottle. And
I remember that.
We kind of forgot to try that. Plus, I like that Kevin's doing it. It's just the way your grandma would have done it. You know?
I mean, there's egg separators, these little tools.
There are tricks.
There's
and
stuff
things.
out there.
But what's so hard about this?
So I'm going to finish doing this, and again, I would need 5 yolks and
8 whites.
8 whites. So I'm going to have 3 yolks left over. You can toss them. You can
make a hollandaise sauce.
Sure, why not? Okay, you can put them in the refrigerator and use them for something else if you want. But let me finish separating the eggs, then we'll get down to business. By the way, eggs separate easier when they're cold than when they're at room temperature.
Oh.
So separate your eggs when they're cold, and then let them get to room temperature for your batters.
That's a twist, because I remember recently you were educating us on the when you're cooking with eggs, it's good to have them at room temperature.
But not for separation. 8 egg whites, 5 egg yolks. There they are. Okay? Now, we got the eggs separated. We're going to move on to our dry ingredients, which we sift together. So here's what we've got. I've got 2 1/4 cups of cake flour. Okay?
Okay.
Very important to use cake flour here and not all-purpose flour.
Is it more sifted? Or?
It's finer. It's a softer. They use a softer wheat. And it's almost like a powder, okay? So we're going to put our cake flour in here, okay, 2 1/4 cups. Then we're going to add our sugar in the sifter as well. I've got 1 1/2 cup of sugar. It's going to be, well, I'll get as much in there as I can, and then we'll add to it. And then I'm going to need our leavener, which is baking powder, Ralph. Sometimes we use baking soda, sometimes we use a combination, but we want 2 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Okay?
Okay.
And then, of course, some salt. Just a teaspoon of regular table salt is good. That's what I like to use in baking.
Okay.
Okay, just kind of stir that in a little bit. And I'm going to start sifting this down. And as it sifts,
and as it makes room, then you'll add more
I'll add the
dry
rest
ingredients.
of the sugar here. Okay. So this is a great way. One, it'll lighten up that flour even more. And it's also a great way to incorporate all the ingredients nicely. You don't have a sifter like this? No problem. You can use a sieve, you know, a fine mesh sieve.
Mm-hmm.
That would work just fine. Okay? So let me get this through, and then we'll come back and we'll add some our wet ingredients to our dry. So Ralph, we sifted our ingredients, right?
Right.
All our dry ingredients, and now I'm going to make a well in the center.
Right.
Like this, just by moving things around. Okay, see that?
Yeah, just a little indent around.
Yeah.
Sizable indentation, really.
So now we're going to put in our wet ingredients to this. So I've got a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil.
Okay.
You with me? Okay. And then I'm going to put in our egg yolks. 5.
5 egg yolks.
Get all that in there.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Then we put in a 1/2 cup of cold water. Let me measure this. And they say you really need to put it in order. So here's our 1/2 cup of cold water. Then I've got 4 tablespoons of maraschino cherry juice. So what I did is I just drained it right out of the jar. We're going to chop up those cherries and fold them in later. But that
is creating the pink.
Yes. Okay, and then we're going to put in a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay. Then we're going to put all this together.
Beat by hand?
Well, I'm using this hand beater because I'm saving my my stand mixer for beating the egg whites.
Oh.
Okay. So let me use this. If you have a portable hand, mixer, you could use that. I'm just going to use my egg beater here. This will be fine. So we're going to get all this mixed, but look how pretty and pink that batter is from the maraschino.
Pretty and pink. That's another album we could have found.
Oh, that's right.
And the Pink Panther. I know you're not too loud about this one because it's too much talking. We'll find something else.
Well, it's so funny. Rex Harrison was really not a singer. He was a talker. He had that great voice, but singing he didn't do.
Right.
Although I don't know if Audrey Hepburn really was that big of a singer either.
Well, I just like the cover.
Yeah, the cover is wonderful. And it's a wonderful play.
And the fact that you bought it just yesterday, right?
Yep.
50 cents.
So, okay. So we're just going to mix this till it's just nice and smooth and combined like so. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our 8 egg
whites.
And they're going to go in the mixer. And then we're going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This is
dried tartar sauce?
No. No, this is actually used when doing egg whites, and it's really kind of
helps stiffen them?
Yes, and stabilizing them. Okay. So this is really where you want to use your power mixer if you have one.
So you got the 8 egg whites and how much?
1/4 teaspoon cream of tartar.
Right.
And we'll let that do its thing, and we're going to beat them till they hold stiff peaks. Okay, so it'll probably take about 4 or 5 minutes. Okay.
Did it do its thing?
There it is. See, that's
is there any
when they
sugar?
don't flip over. No, there's no sugar in it, but the what do you call it?
Tartar.
This is all the sugar's in this part.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what we've got. So now that we have our egg whites,
that's gonna make it real fluffy.
And then we have our batter. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pour the batter over the egg whites in a very gentle way
Folding
and
motion.
folding them in.
Hey, batter, batter, batter. Hey, batter, swing. All right.
Okay, we fold, we fold, we fold, and pour. I don't know if you can get that in the shot, but this is basically
Get what?
what?
How I'm helping?
Yeah. So actually, we need to. Can you turn the bowl?
Which way? This way?
Either way.
All right.
Let's see what's happening. See how the batter's getting slightly pink.
Yes, you're mixing those two together
Yeah.
slowly is
Again.
important.
And I know
Folding
we've talked
in.
about folding before. Folding is coming up from the bottom and just lifting and pulling over. And if you can rotate the bowl at the same time, that's even better still. Sometimes, we're not octopus, so we don't have
Octopi.
Thank you.
But yeah,
as much as you can
yeah,
do.
and it's definitely taking on a nice sort of pale pink color, which I know is going to be beautiful. And then he's got those maraschino cherries that he's chopped up.
Right. So then what I did is I took probably 14 maraschino cherries, and I chopped those up, and now we're
Right in
going
they
to
go.
put those in, and we're going to just fold those in through the batter, and then that will make these beautiful
Little flecks of pink. Or
yes,
of
of red
against the pink.
flecks throughout. Now we're using a 10-inch tube pan to bake. What does that look like? That looks like this here. Okay? Now normally when we bake, what do? We grease our pans. We're not greasing this pan. And here's why. Because this cake is going to rise up high because of those egg whites, right, Ralph? And we want it to cling to the side of the pan. Okay, as it's baking, it's going to be clinging. If the side of the pan is slick, it's going to do this. We don't want it to do that. We want it to stick to the side of the pan.
As it rises.
As it rises, because that will help hold the rise.
Wow,
see?
this is like
So we're not going to grease it. Okay,
it's like
I
a
think
science
that's pretty
lesson.
good.
It's like a Mr. Wizard science lesson mixed with cooking.
So now we got our batter, and we're going to put her in there.
Oh, nice.
By the way, the oven is preheated to 325 degrees. Okay? So, let me get all of our batter out here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bake this at 325 for about 55 minutes.
Okay.
Then we're going to turn the temperature up to 350 for another 10 to 15.
Oh.
Okay? But this will bake at 325.
So there are definitely a lot of steps to this one.
A little bit, yeah. You can see, to separate
not
the
slapdash.
eggs. No, it's not. There's a little bit more involved, but you know what? It's a beautiful cake. It's a cake that, like I said, 5 years later, they remembered this cake and asked if we would bring it for dinner tonight. So it made an impression, I guess.
Sounds like it.
Okay, so here's our batter. We're going to put it in our oven. 325 degrees for 55 minutes. We'll see you when it comes out. So it's been about an hour and 10 minutes. So remember, we baked it for 55 minutes at 325, and then I turned it up to 350 for its last 10 minutes of baking. So what you need to do now is grab a wine bottle.
Wow.
Because, Mama, this cake is finally done. We're going to pour a stiff one.
Are you serious?
No, actually, we have to invert the cake. We have to invert the cake, okay? It needs to cool upside down. And I have found that the thing that works best is a wine bottle. So we're not going to get into this anytime, at least for the next couple hours, are we?
No.
Okay, because it's going to be, that bottle's going to be otherwise occupied.
Okay.
All right? So, now, the reason we have to invert the cake as it cools so it doesn't fall. There she is.
It sure smells nice.
And I just want to make sure it bounces back when yes. Okay.
It's a really nice aroma. Hello,
They're
pink
pretty.
lady.
So we're going to take it out. Look how it came right up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to put it just like this.
Wow.
There it is. Okay?
Huh.
Now, it's going to need to cool completely before we even attempt to take it out of the pan. Okay?
It won't fall onto the table?
It will not. No. I mean, the wine bottle is more than half full, so it's got enough weight to hold it. Okay? But it has to completely cool, and then we'll take it out of the pan, and we'll make a nice pink maraschino cherry icing. All right. Cake feels cool.
So it's had a long couple hours almost, right?
Yeah, couple
cool.
hours.
So that's the trick.
We will put the wine aside for later. So now we got to get it out of this thing. Okay? Now you can either take a very long, thin knife, will work. I'm using a spatula, and what I'm going to do, Ralph, is look. I'm going to come in just right on the side here. You see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And I'm going to run this spatula around the edge of this cake.
Once you get it started, it feels
Because
like
it-
you can kind of just push it through almost.
Yeah, and again, you know, it's stuck to the side, and we wanted it to stick.
Right.
Because
So
again,
now you're just loosening it.
right.
So you don't want to dig in or anything. You just want to loosen it from the sides of the, what did you call that? 8-inch pan?
I almost forgot. You want to do the center also, around the tube. Now, Ralph, the way this pan is designed,
Oh, look how nice it comes out.
okay, so it has, but you can see how the cake, remember how I said you want it to crawl up the sides,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we've got to get it off the bottom. See?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spatula, I'm going to go in, you see what I'm doing here? We're going to make our frosting now. What I did is I've got, I think, 5, however many cherries were left in the jar. I think there was 5 or 6.
Chopped them up nice.
Chopped them up nice, okay? So here's our cherries. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some powdered sugar. And icing is something that you got to do by trial and error. I'm going to put in, probably a cup of powdered sugar to start with. And then I'm going to put in just a little of this maraschino cherry juice.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that's maybe a tablespoon.
So that's
Let's
all
see.
you put in so far?
Yep. But what happens is, look what's happening. See how it's coming together? Now it's still a little too thick. So
I call that clumping.
yes, we're going to put in a little bit more, and we want to get it so that you can make it as sort of as thick or as loose as you want. That's still a little too thick. Let's put a little bit more maraschino cherry juice. So that will give it not only a nice flavor, but look at that color. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, that's very cherry.
So it depends. Now you can always make, I can put a little bit more juice in it, make it thinner, and then if it's too thin, I can go back and add a little bit more powdered sugar and thicken it up. So that's probably about where I want it. We don't want this whole thing covered in icing. If you want to do that, that's fine. You can.
Oh, you're just going to
That's
drizzle
a
it?
frosting. This is just a drizzle.
Oh.
Okay? Because this is so sweet, and the flavor is really in the cake. Okay? So I'm gonna add a little bit more sugar. I want to thicken this up just a little bit. And that will also lighten the color. There we go.
Make it more pink because it's supposed to be a pink lady chiffon.
I think that's nice and pink. So now, here's what we're going to do. I've got my cake on sort of a little lazy Susan here. And we're going to just...
Oh, you spin it while you drizzle.
Exactly. Okay.
Wow.
And
that's
some of it
cool.
will kind of go under the sides.
It's like a
and that's why-
spirograph.
Yeah. But it's just about giving it some color and a little personality.
Is that how you made it the first time for the
I
girls?
think so, yeah.
So we're not gonna.
I never really
Disappointing.
iced the whole cake. It's sort of too much. I mean, if this was like a layer cake, of course I would. But these kind of cakes, I really love just putting a nice drizzle of a colorful, icing on, and going from there. What do you think of that?
I think that's good. Let's put some on this side where it's a little bare, where it got a little frost, or well, I guess it's all kind of nice.
There.
No, it'll be fine.
There.
It's looking very good.
So it'll drip down the sides. See, it's dripping down the center.
Yeah, so it's like you're letting gravity do its thing, letting chemistry and science and Kevin's creative baking and cooking all come together.
Yep. So there it is, folks. That is our Pink Lady chiffon cake.
And it's going to make a great dessert for tonight's dinner party.
Yeah, it's really this is a cake when you bring it in, they're like, wow, it's a big cake, although it's light. That's the other wonderful thing about it. It's a very light cake. This can serve a crowd. You can serve 20 people off of this cake if you cut it right. It's a cake that people don't get a lot of. And, there's a number of steps to making this, but it really is worth it. So, anyways, we had a wonderful time with you putting this Pink Lady cherry chiffon cake together. Thanks for being a part of this one. And you know what? We'll see you next time on Cavalcade of Food.
Bye.